Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most gracious. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I would like to start by thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to meet in this wonderful place. And I would like to thank the organizers, the Institute of Islamic Theology, for inviting me and give me the chance and opportunity to come and meet all of you here. Coming from America to Germany is not easy, but I felt this is something is a call, really, from God to come to this area and also to share with you some of our experience and knowledge in America as an American Muslim community there. So thank you for Dr. Sylvia, Catherine, and Malahad, and of course for also the Institute. And the volunteers, Amina, I will not also forget what you've done for us. In this, it's a heavy topic. It's about family and not any issues of a family. We're dealing with the issue of domestic violence. And so I would like, of course, to divide my presentation into three sections. The first one is the definition. And also I would like to give you the introduction about our work before I start with the definition. And then also I will try to highlight the Quranic model, especially after defining domestic violence on the issues, relations within family. And finally, I would like to also share with you some of our works and organizations, institutions that it's already established to deal with the family issues in America. And I think if you don't mind, maybe I will ask some of you to read some of the verses. I prepared the PowerPoint, so feel free, any one of you can just read the verses. In the 1992 almost, when I arrived to America, and of course the first thing you do is just to go to the mosque and try to connect with the Muslims there and people. At that time, of course, there were different barriers, and also you have children, so you need to introduce them to the community. While we were working there, we discovered, like my friends and others, we discovered that there were so many issues with our sisters. They're complaining about maybe husbands, in-laws, parenting skills they don't have, and how to deal with the new society for them, and especially with the immigrants. With African Americans, we had also some of the sisters there. So, but we found out that we have so many different issues and problems. So we tried to contact the imam and try to find out if they can help us with this. They said yes, but it's better not to interfere. This is something private, and it's for the family to deal with. And if they have, of course, extended family, so it's better to resolve their issues within the family instead of us interfering. And when finally we tried to give advice, and that's the only thing you do. But later we found really ourselves in a situation that some of the sisters were either beaten or under kind of, I still remember one of the stories, and that was the one that I think encouraged us to start and build that kind of networking among ourselves. She was beaten by her husband, and her neighbor, the American neighbors, they called the police, and they came, of course, the police. They took the children from the family. They arrested the husband, and then the wife was in the hospital for a few days, and she was, and listen to this, she was blamed by the family, the extended family, and of course for some of the community members. Why did you do that? Well, she was, of course, with the broken limbs and all this. So at that time, we realized that really there is a problem, so we need to work on this. And since that time, of course, we started really to identify these issues as challenges. And why is that? Because also there's another story, which is before the 1990s. It was in the 60s, and in the 60s, the Muslim scholars and some of the families there, they were using the Islamic model of family as a model for the American society. As even they called it at that time is silence da'wah. Because for you, when you have a structure, you have very clear boundaries. The rights and responsibilities of each member of the family is very clear. You have the best children going and interacting with the society. As also a mother or father, you're working together. So you have a healthy family. So in this case, it's the best to introduce this to American society. And that's what they need. They need that kind of stability within the family. But it's just immediately after a short time, it seems like the change was and happened. In fact, unfortunately, it was very early that families emerged into the challenges of the culture and immigrants and other issues. So what is domestic violence? At that time, as I said, with our stories, even the terminology itself was not there and was not even known for us as domestic violence. We know it's maybe oppression or maybe some other terminology that can we use from the Quran and from the Sunnah. But we found out while we are working and we have that kind of networking with the mainstream of the social workers and the government and other organizations, that domestic violence is not only with a specific religion or ethnic groups or something, but it's a global issue. So at that time, we really tried to define the problem itself and to come to the Muslim community and try to explain to them the meaning of this issue. So I will just read a few things about it, and then I will move to the issue itself. So domestic violence, of course, it's emotional, verbal, spiritual, financial, physical, and sexual abuse have existed in various forms in every society throughout recorded history. Yet it was not until the 19th century that domestic violence became a social issue in the United States. Once considered one of the most underreported crimes in the U.S. That's in general, of course. So domestic violence made its way into the national stage as a major social ill during the 1980s. Okay, and also 1990s. The public soon realized that no religious or ethnic community could be considered immune, and as a result, faith-based anti-domestic violence advocacy has become an integral part of the DV, or domestic violence movement, over the last 20 years. According to a study conducted in 1998, I was telling you about our experience, but part of this, this lady, may Allah give her mercy, Sharif Al-Khatib, she, as a president of the North American Council for Muslim Women, NASMO, physical violence occurs in, that's her survey. She did the survey based on informal relations with many women there. So what she found that physical violence occurs in about 10% of Muslim marriages in the U.S. The rate of emotional and verbal abuse are estimated to be as high as 50% based upon international studies and research in the U.S. So the definition itself, they said, domestic violence is an umbrella term that usually refers to violence or abusive behaviors that occur within a domestic setting where one family member asserts control over one or more family members. And this may include verbal abuse, of course, or financial abuse, emotional, sexual, and also physical. Domestic violence includes acts of violence perpetuated by husbands against wives, wives against husbands, parents against children, children against parents, siblings against siblings, and abuses of elderly. The United Nations estimated that at least 1/3 of women around the world are victims of physical or sexual violence. The body of existing research has indicated that DV, or domestic violence, is not confined to any particular age, as we said, social status, culture, religions, socio-economic, or ethnic groups. And the causes of DV also vary. And researchers continue to explore how race, class, religion, and culture, as well as psychological variables such as low self-esteem, abusive childhood, wars, living under dictatorship regimes, how much affects one's experience with violence. Also, as research becomes more interdisciplinary, it will reveal more, I think, clear understanding of the causes and more also of the complexity of DV. Although the specific term of domestic violence has not been used traditionally in Muslim cultures, and while there has been some denial historically that domestic violence is a phenomenon that exists in Muslim community, it's not there. So we are fine. We don't have domestic violence. The Quran identifies the behaviors consistent with the domestic violence under the umbrella of oppression, dhulm. Oppression is a broad category that includes any type of injustice against another person and is clearly prohibited in Islam. And of course, the general categories of domestic violence mentioned, again, in wrongdoing, harsh treatment, inflicting harm or injury against anyone. So actions, any action, of course, that fall into any of these categories are violating the Islamic justice, kindness, ma'ruf, equality, freedom, mercy, and love. So for this, for us finding some of the causes and also the problem, and again we went to introduce ourselves to different imams, and specifically in our center. So they said, okay, if you use domestic violence, immediately you will be called feminists. And in this case, every work, everything you've done, or you are doing, or you will do, it will be a curse. Not only on you, but also on the masjid, so you have to be careful with this. So the main thing, really, and for me as someone with Islamic studies, with jurisprudence and fiqh, and dealing with the Quran, so I said, I will not accept this because we have the source, we have the Quran, we have the Sunnah. So the action itself, it's very clear that's against the teachings of the Quran and the Sunnah. So I will go to the source and I will read the Quran holistically instead of people are taking one ayah out of context and then after a while they said, oh, it's in the Quran. So after the abuser abuses his wife or family, then he remembers at that time as if he's following the Quran, and that's why he's doing this. So the first step for me, it was really to work on finding the truth and the holistic worldview, the Quranic worldview. And I'll give you this, and then we will go to the model. And I have, of course, my other also sisters and colleagues working with me. So we have a counselor, we have a therapist, we had education and system with the schools who work with the schools. We had a group of people who are also social workers who used to work with the American organizations. We also we used to have psychiatrists also working with them. So it was each one has different roles, and we were not working all together, but when we come together, we can discuss some of the issues. But Sharifa Al-Khatib, as I mentioned her name, she was the first one who really thought about having an organization to deal with this. And it's not only about individuals who are working in different fields, but there's no communication. And even if we have the communication, we'll send some of the sisters go to this or go to that, but that's not enough because we need that kind of support system. So I will show you now just how we develop, or I work on this model, and then I will show you how much also working with this and publishing even after that as a book and publications for the community, convincing at least, we start with the imams, and then the imams helped us to convince the community. And then I will also go through the other ideas because we were really in a difficult situation. So let's see this. Okay. I know it's too much, but first we have to start with the Quranic or Islamic paradigm. And in this case, what is the worldview of the Quran? The main thing is the concept of Tawheed, believing in one God. And this is, for Muslims, we take it for granted as if yes, we understand this, so there's no way, of course, to miss this. But we focus on this to explain that believing in one God, the meaning of your relationship with Him, and how do you understand Him in the values and principles. And through that, of course, it takes classes and courses and lectures to explain all this. Then the Quran also explains, and in this, we try to answer the ultimate questions, the difficult questions. Why we are here, who is Allah, all the questions that sometimes it seems like it's given, but the reality, when it comes to reality and explained to people, it's far away from us. It's not easy. And even with the Quran itself, people are far away of contemplating the Quran, trying to reflect and understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. And critical thinking is, again, is not there still to this day with the Muslims. Some of us, yes. How do you understand the verses, the ayat, the Tawheed itself? How do you connect this with the other, even with your action? And what does it mean? So the second question is, why are we here? What do we do? What is the mission of humanity? Why do you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created humanity? So in Surah Al-Baqarah, of course, this is in Ayah 30 is very clear, the story of creation, and that when God said, I will create a vicegerent on earth, or a trustee, or agent, or steward, or worshippers. So with this, it's a paradigm by itself. Then you ask about gender relations. And now with the mission, is this only for men or for men and women to accomplish and fulfill this responsibility? This is a responsibility. This is a mission. God is, created humanity for a reason. So what is that mission? And what does it mean for us as female? And here also you have many verses and ayat, of course, but specifically you have, we will come to ayah 1 from Surah An-Nisa, Surah number 4. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us in Surah Al-Hujurat 49:13, O humankind or mankind, people, we created you from a single pair of a male and female, and made you into nations and tribes, that you may know each other, not that you may despise each other. Verily, the most honored of you in the sight of Allah, of God, is the most righteous of you. So the Islamic view here, all relations are between, whether interdependent or not, between the family, the community, nations, and the universe. The set of beliefs maintains balance and stability in all aspects of life. There's another relationship also with the universe. In the Quran is all over the places. You have hundreds of verses in the Quran about the universe, about your surroundings, about learning from whatever God created for you. And that's also, we use it as a model for harmony, how to bring harmony to human family, because it seems like we miss this. So we need to learn from the bees, ants, on other maybe animals. Okay. Now there is another concept that's it's important for gender relations, zawjiyah. It's all mentioned in the Quran, and it's also hundreds of verses in the Quran about pairing, or zawj, azwaj, zawjiyah. And this concept is very critical. And of course, here, maybe I gave you here one example in Surah Nisa. Anyone wants to volunteer and read the ayah? Yes, and
O humankind, reverence your guardian Lord, who created you from a single person, created of like nature, his mate, and from them twain scattered like seeds, countless men and women. Reverence God, through whom ye demand your mutual rights, and reverence the warmth that bore you, for God ever watches over you.
Thank you very much. This is very also fundamental ayah and verse. And it's amazing when you contemplate the Quran and you try to think about this. The surah is the women. And the beginning, the introduction of the surah, this is the introduction. So it means you have to remember and you have to remind yourself that this is the foundation and foundational issue that we deal with. Anything else, it comes later, whether it's legal issues or moral issues, it all will go back to the foundations. And again, it's for the zawjiyah, It's in the Quran and universal cosmogony. It's all over the universe. Everything is pairing, in pairing, in pairing. So that's another also important concept to deal with in terms of gender. Then there's the issue of favoring someone over another. Again, we went back to 49:13. What is the measurement for God to favor? And this is, of course, here, as we said, the concept of Tawheed in the beginning. And how do you connect this between male and female? Because it's very easy for people to say, this person, of course, is closer to God. And if he's, or mostly that's in this terminology, it's like he is the closest to God for what? And what is the measurement? And most of the time, people, they use their own measurement and standards. They built, that's why the culture is very tricky and it's very critical, because most of the time, we take that kind of concepts out of context from the Quran, and then we establish our own understanding, whether is with misunderstanding of maybe cut and paste, and sometimes, and at the end, we lose the main concept. So here, God favors someone over another. By what? What is the standard? That's a question. What is the standard according to this ayah? Taqwa. What does it mean, taqwa? It's a concept, it's a Quranic concept, but it's very loaded concept. Immediately when you have the word taqwa or piety, it means your relationship with God only. So it means everything that's related to you with that understanding is really depends on that relationship. No one else. God here, and this is justice and also mercy and love from Him to give us that kind of, it's not for people to decide and judge you on piety, if you are pious or not, because the reality is only between you and Him. So it's not about gender, it's not about ethnic group, it's not about race, color, or anything, rich family, poor family, no. It's that kind of relationship you have. So this is another also concept that's very important to deal with when you come with gender issues in Islam. Next. Okay, this also, that's part of that holistic reading of the Quran and also the Sunnah. The Sunnah, we read the Sunnah in the light of the Quran. The Western society, usually, you have a specific understanding of equality. And we always, and that's again, it's very important. In the Quran always teaches us that you have to be very critical and very clear when you use terminology, concepts. You can't have ambiguous concept and then you say, oh, this is the one that. So if I say equality, you have to define exactly the meaning of equality here. What do you mean with this? Because there are different understanding and different ideas about it. So also dealing with different women from the other faiths and also from the American universities and the American social workers and other organizations, we found that the difference in that terminology of equality, it's not the same as in the Quran, kind of. It was more about seeking identical roles, understanding in everything. So it's more about sameness. We're looking for sameness. It's not in a way that the Islamic perspective, it's more equal in values, of course, equal in worth, in your responsibilities, in your roles, as we mentioned, as you all are trustees, and you have to understand this. And also, we found other Muslim women scholars. And someone who also happened to be American herself, she was discussing dual sex societies, that because it's not only about sameness, but the reality is about different people, male and female, and how do you work together with different roles. And also the roles itself, it has its own meaning, and also we have to go back and define this. But mainly with the, I picked here only one example of the verses is from Surah Ali Imran, number 3, 195. So if anyone can read this, give you a break from my voice. Amina, would you like to?
Which one?
I will not target you, by the way, but just
okay.
for this.
And the Lord has
The last one.
The last one. And the Lord has accepted of them and answered them, never will I suffer to be lost the work of any of you, be he male or female. You are members one of another. Those who have left their homes or been driven out therefrom or persecuted in my cause or fought or been slain, verily I will remove from them their misdeeds and admit them into gardens with the rivers flowing beneath. A reward from the presence of God and from his presence is the best of rewards.
Thank you. What do you think about this ayah? It's okay to reflect and answer. No? Anyone? I will not move to another slide without listening to one of you. Malahat?
Yes. Can I just read it again? I'm so sorry.
Sure. Do you think there is an invitation? Because God is saying, and their Lord has accepted of them and answered them. So it's like dialogue. There is a questions and answers. What's going on? What kind of dialogue between God and people, male and female? Actions, work, deeds. Yes.
This is an answer to a request?
Okay.
I mean, it sounds like that. And the Lord has accepted of them, means of whom, and answered them.
Do you see the details also? Details of actions and taking actions? As if people, sometimes you don't know exactly if they're confused or something. So here is like, okay, listen, it's male or female. And there is also, we need to underline, you are members one of another. And this is in the Quran, بَعْضُكُم مِّن بَعْض. And if you count and try to trace how many times that God mentioned بَعْضُكُم مِّن بَعْض, it's like there's no difference. And this is by itself, by the way, if we start thinking also about gender relations, it's the answer for this. So it's not about hierarchy. Male are there, female is here or something. It's بَعْضُكُم مِّن بَعْض. So you work all together. You are members of each other. And that's why, or مِنْ أَنفُسِكُم, there's another word. مِنْ أَنفُسِكُم. So it's part of you. So if you say anything, it's from you. It's yourself, as if it's yourself. أنفُسِكُم, nafs, it's yourself. And here, مِنْ أَنفُسِكُم. So male or female, it's really, the issue is not about that hierarchy. I was saying, we build it, we establish it as in our cultures, but the reality in the Quran is telling us something different. Now, we ask ourselves about, also it was part of the debates and arguments, and I mentioned this because it's important also to understand domestic violence. Some areas and some Muslims, they have the concept or the notion or understanding that women should not be working outside their homes. It took a while, for maybe more than 10 or 20 years, as a dialogue. I don't know about now. I should go back and search. I guess because in America, so every woman are working. So, but in some families, it still is a case. They shouldn't be outside working. Why? There are different reasons for them in their understanding. What do you think about this question of women's working outside their homes? And I can discuss this also in terms of this ayah. Or even about women in the war zone, women defending their families. Women are in the most critical and most difficult situation. What do you think?
They belong to the group, those who left their homes. So it's woman and man who left their homes. So woman and man are being driven out there from or persecuted,
yes.
In my cause or fought or being slain. So woman and man. So they have to be outside or have to be at war in wars and so.
Yeah. So it's that kind of involvement, of course, in everything. But at the same time, we can have that question mark about the roles, and I will explain, and please remind me, because the role of women maybe as a mother in one thing that we're dealing with, so you have to have that also understanding, and how do we apply and understand this. Okay, look again. We have in Surah Al-Ahzab, and this is very, very interesting because this is part of also full research about Muslim women scholarship, and also about the role of women in the prophetic, of course, and the prophet household. It came before that, and this one, it comes after the role of the women in the household. So here it's that beautiful story and also ayah. It was also based on the dialogue and question of Muslim women at the time of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, were asking about, oh, by the way, we're hearing this call and that call about men, and how about us? So, as I said, the Quran usually clarifies all or any confusion that it happens maybe in people's mind. So, leaving no doubts and no ambiguity. So, what do we have here? Anyone?
Do you want us to read?
Please, just read.
This is my favorite.
Yeah,
ayahs.
I'm sure.
I want to read it. For Muslim man and woman, for believing man and woman, for devout man and woman, for true man and woman, for man and woman who are patient and constant, for man and woman who humble themselves, for man and woman who give in charity, for man and woman who fast, for man and woman who guard their chastity, and for man and woman who engage much in God's remembrance. For them has God prepared forgiveness and great reward.
So, do you hear now? This is also the religious obligations. At the same time, it's the social obligations. So we are working, we have to work together to establish that kind of society, families. It's not only one side of the story. Now, there's another also concept in the Quran, the concept of wilayah. I'm a jurist, so I understand also the legal concept of wali, and that's also, I will bring this idea, but I will read the role of wali in the fiqhi concept in the light of this ayah. You see? And I want you to think about it too, not only me. I got this in practical also in my family, but what do you see here about awliya? وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتُ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ يأمرون بالمعروف وينهون عن المنكر ويقيمون الصلاة ويؤتون الزكاة ويطيعون الله ورسوله أولئك سيرحمهم الله إن الله عزيز حكيم. This is 971 and 972. And we have the translation. Young lady, yes.
The believers, men and women, are protectors one of another. They enjoin what is just and forbid what is evil. They observe regular prayers, practice regular charity, and obey God and His messenger. On them will God pour His mercy, for God is exalted in power, wise. God had promised to believers, men and women, gardens under which rivers flow to dwell therein, and beautiful mansions in gardens of everlasting bliss. But the greatest bliss is the God pleasure of God, that is the supreme felicity.
Thank you. I think it's very clear, right? It's awliya, and so it's also if we kind of connect this with the previous understanding, we're trying to have the holistic view about this, not to take all the ayat or the verses out of context, and then we said that's what we use here. But the reality is that's the relationship, as if there's expectations. It's God expected people to deal with these issues. And here is giving us in different, because some of the mufassirin also there, they have the idea here is not only about in family, but in society. So if it's in society, so men and women, believing men and women, how do you work together? And specifically about the concept of al-amr bil-ma'ruf and nahy anil munkar. But the reality, when you look at all the previous obligations and how do you work, it's all connected. Whether in family, you start in family, in fact, by amr bil-ma'ruf and nahy anil munkar, and it's not also the historical understanding of this issue of amr bil-ma'ruf and nahy anil munkar is very now complicated, but when you look at this and you try to say, for example, with domestic violence, for example, if you have, I will have the example, and you see, if I know, God forbid, one of maybe my brothers or my close relatives abuses his wife, if I have that knowledge, and I don't do anything against it, and I don't try even to support my sister-in-law or the one who is in that situation of abuse, can you put me under which of these categories here? Am I doing what I'm supposed to do to prevent injustice or to help the victims? Or I'm doing the opposite. And this is part of the meaning of amr bil ma'ruf and nahy anil munkar, is when you see any injustice, you have to stand against it. And not only this, but you have to also remove injustice and replace it with the best ways, of course, in dealing with this. So, and then how to reach this level, you need some support system, and that's spiritual support system. It comes with salah, with the prayers. And then you have a practice regular charity. It means you are also involved in the society. So you know exactly who is in need. And the need, it's not about poor, but even in this level, maybe the sister, and we found this part of the domestic issues, domestic violence issues, that in so many families, one of the forms of abuse is financial abuse. He doesn't give her any money. He doesn't give her anything for her children, for herself. even in some extreme cases, food for them, they don't receive this. So how do you deal with this? Shura. It's part of also, and it's mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah, in the ayah of nursing the child and divorce. God mentioned this when divorced women and men, they're in that situation, they have a baby. The wife should nurse the baby, but they have to have that mutual consultation among themselves to decide what is the best for the child. And it means it's this kind of practicing, exercising shura. Listen, that's in the case of divorce. So in the case of divorce, if they're using that mutual consultation, it means they are trained, well trained. This is part of their practices. So it's not something alien for them. No, they practice shura and consultation all the time. So when they reach the level that if they're divorced, it's already there, it's established. So part of the issue here with the shura. I will stop here and then we will come back to family issue. Do you have any questions or any comments and any challenges you'd like to post? Please feel free. Everything is okay?
You know, on one slide you said Islam values dual sex society where each gender has equally value, where each gender is equally valuable, but sometimes different roles.
Mm.
So the different roles, what do you mean by this? Because some or mostly the people think, okay, a woman has just one type of role, and this is to be a mother or to be at home. I mean, you said, you mentioned it, it is not supposed to be, or it does not mean that she has to stay at home. But if we talk about roles, I'm not sure what does it mean, because roles, it is dangerous if we use the term roles, because it means it is something, you know, something specific. It's just this, you know, you have just one role and that's it. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, of course.
So what do you mean by this? Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Do you share the same concerns with Malahad? Because
it's just me.
Just you. You don't want. But this is the reality, and that's what we have to deal with. We have to, of course, also realize that with the feminist movement the main concern is women only for being mothers, and in this, of course, you can very easily to dismiss other also roles of women. Is this the things that the Islam or in the Quran, that's what it meant, or no, it's beyond this? And the reality, and that's why I showed in the beginning about women goes through different activities, and especially if you are in danger, so it means they're supposedly in this, women were trained how to face difficult situations. It's not only for men, but that kind of training requires what? Requires knowledge, requires experience, and that experience, there's no way to gain the experience by only having mothers or women in this case, sitting at home. And I will also explain about the issue of home here. What does it mean? Because this is also part of domestic violence, when the man will decide for his wife or daughters not to go out and work, while at the same time maybe he's not providing enough money or financially for the family, and the family needs another salary to work with the issues that they are facing. They are having maybe students in college, they have other health issues, they have so many things, and then, no, I'm working. And using this, I will also explain this with the qiwama. But what I meant with roles here, it's not only about financial issues. There are other responsibilities. It's more about rights and responsibilities. And in Islam or in the Quran, that kind of exchange, that always that your rights, it's someone else's responsibility, and your responsibility is someone's right. So this kind of understanding, it makes roles is not rigid. There's flexibility, there's understanding, there is, and as we said, is you have goals, and the goals is to worship God in the best way, and the goals also to be the best who gives charity. It means you need some financial also resources for yourself to give this. And we have, of course, also about inheritance, about women to have money and deal with business and establish their own businesses, and this is part of our history. It's not even in our history. It wasn't there. No, we have businesswomen. We have women who they establish their own organizations. But the issue to change and to have the role into that rigid understanding, it means for women to only to be mothers and stay home. And what does it mean to stay home? I can be a mother, but, and maybe most of you, but you're working outside with your children. And I'll give you an example, even for all of us maybe, and for me, I will use this. The first thing when I went to America, of course, English was not my first language, it's my second language. I have children, school age. I had to go back and forth with them to their schools to understand their environment, because it's a new environment. And if I don't really be active, and that's also I want you to understand the terminology of staying home watching TV, staying home calling my relatives for hours and hours, staying home to use Facebook all the time. What does it mean staying home? So we have to understand this. So mother's role is very, very critical and is very important. So for example, I give you that example. For me, this is my responsibility. My children still were young, and I'm new to this society. So I was involved with PTA, the parent, children, teachers, or all kinds of activities with my limited English. But I decided this is my role, and I have to take care of this responsibility. So after a while, one of the teachers, she suggested, why don't you enroll in this program? It's substitute teaching. I said, yeah, sure. I was learning English while talking and involving with children. And of course, being with a scarf among the students, that's another challenge, but it's okay. I'm there. I can help. I can see. I can watch my children, their classmates, their teachers, so they respected this. And part of this, I started also working and finished certificate on substitute teaching, and I was there with them, teaching as a teacher, not only volunteers. So for both sides, for my children, my role as a mother here is very active mother, not someone who's passive, sitting home, doing nothing, knowing nothing about children, my children in school or something. And then after a while, I said, oh, it's a stay-home mother. I'm sorry, this is not the role, what it means for this. But some people, they have this misconception about this. So the issue is not physically sitting home. The issue is staying home. Kind of, we can change maybe this concept, but that it has been changed by so many Muslim women who are active in their children's life. And I think that's what it means for us to understand this. And then also the Prophet himself, he supported so many women, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in his time. To some of them, Zainab, they had the wife of Ibn Mas'ud. She was the worker in the family. She was the support. She's, in fact, the source of the financial support and means for her family. And she came to him and asked him, what should I do? My husband doesn't work, so I have to work all the time. I said, that's the charity that you're doing to your family. But at the same time, with this in the modern societies, we need both maybe sometimes to work. But at the same time, we have to adjust, and we have to also have that role of parenting. Both father and mother works together. And it's a new system maybe, new than traditional, because we have a traditional also a traditional way of understanding the role of men and women, and it worked maybe for some times or many times, and for different families, and even today, maybe it works for some families. There's no contradiction, but the main thing is to generalize and make it as a rule for everyone. Our goal, we have to focus on the goal. Our goal is to bring stability, healthy families and relations within our families. And as long as we know how to fulfill this and we read the ayat, the verses, we're fine. But we have to trust each other.
Can I just ask one?
Sure, please.
Because I just want to be sure, you said, do you understand me? Yeah. So you said if the husband does not allow the wife to go for work, so it is that domestic violence. Is it? And you said if he cannot assure the financial support, just when he can't, is it? Oh, my question is it domestic violence if he does not allow it? Just in that case when he can't afford the financial resource, or at all?
Yeah. Remember what we said about mutual consultation?
Yes.
So it must be between the two. There is agreement, there is consultation, and this is part of it. So that agreement, it comes from both sides.
Okay.
If she's now ready to go out and work for 8 hours a day, and for both of them, they have to discuss this in a civil way, understanding the circumstances, and it's based on the circumstances, of course, and then they decide mutually among themselves.
So if he just does it on his own without discussion, it is domestic violence, is it right? Or can you say this?
You can maybe it's not always we use the terminology is domestic violence, because domestic violence is really clear and heavy, and it's maybe you can say is someone is doing kind of a form of forcing or pressing, his own opinion upon the others, but that's can be also dealt with again. Let's talk. And there are many issues also, or many ways just to resolve that kind of conflict. But domestic violence, when it becomes as authority, the man or the women, in some cases now we have women also, they are very authoritative and they force their opinion upon their husbands. And you never know, we have so many cases now, so that's another issue. But as I will mention also some of the surveys, women, of course, it's higher than the cases. But that's what we're saying. It leads to some other forms of oppression.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, now with the family. Are we okay Is it boring or you feel okay? Okay? Yeah, I told you from the beginning, it's a heavy topic, so we'll deal with this. The meaning of family, and we'll come back to this, but this one is important, and please remember this, because it's part of also the rise of divorce rate in the U.S., part of it misunderstanding the definition and the concept of family and marriage. And we will find out that this is important to understand and educate our communities about this. What is family in Islam? What is family? How do we define this? I need maybe 2 readers to read out loud. So, yes, please.
Family is a human social group whose members are bound together by the bond of blood, ties and/or marital relationship.
Continue, please.
The family bond entails mutual expectations of rights and obligations that are prescribed by religion, enforced by law, and observed by the group of members.
Okay, the next one, please.
Accordingly, the family members share certain mutual commitments. These pertain to identity and provision, inheritance and counsel, affection for the young and security for the aged, and maximization of effort to ensure continuity of the family.
Thank you. Another person, please. Anna, could you please?
Islam constructs a family on solid grounds that are capable of providing reasonable continuity through security and major intimacy. The foundations of the family have to be as firm and natural as to nurture sincere reciprocity
Yes,
and
very
moral
good.
gratification.
Very good.
Islam recognizes that there is no more natural relationship than that of blood, and no more wholesome pattern of sexual intimacy than one in which morality and gratification are joined.
Thank you. Very good. What do you think about this definition? I found this, it's really, there are so many different definitions, but this one is more comprehensive in a way to understand the objectives and also family. What do you think about this? Is it something that it's well known for Muslims to understand the meaning of family in this way? Or there are other definition of families? Yes.
I think the first 2 definitions are well known by Muslims.
Okay.
And the other ones, I think, no, the third, I don't think, because share certain mutual commitments. I mean,
and that's the roles that we were talking about. Because
Yeah, no.
mutual commitments, commitments, it does not mean sameness.
Yes.
Do you see this?
No. It's also the third definition, I think. No, it's well known, I think.
But in a way, of course, that's what we are talking about, domestic violence, because I want you also to connect. If this definition is well known for the Muslim communities and they practice it very well, we're fine, I think. There's no domestic violence at all because everything is based on mutual understanding, mutual commitments. There's affection, of course, there's respect, and the other, of course, also providing for that kind of security and making sure intimacy is among all the members of family. If you have any questions, any comments, please, this is your space. Even in German, you can speak in German, someone will also discuss it in translation. Yes?
I'm missing the word love in this.
Yes, you're right. It's there. It's there. It should be. And it must be. Yes. Yes. We're coming to marriage and thank you. Yes.
Just one note, what we talked about before.
Yes.
I think this, in theory, this is very well known and also very much used, especially for public relations
Yes.
from Muslim communities to questions from the outside,
Yes.
so to
Yes.
speak. This will be a role model for Muslim family relations, but I don't have the feeling that, especially
Absolutely. I
providing
agree.
reasonable continuity, okay, but nurture sincere reciprocity and moral gratification. That's also always up to the one who is defining what means
Yes.
nurture sincere reciprocity.
That's right.
If I say, I give you this and you should be very happy with this,
Right.
and this is, per my definition, this is sincere reciprocity, that I think you should be grateful for that.
Very good.
Then that's a problem in practice,
Yes.
not in theory. But
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Wonderful. That's by itself, it explains the next, it's all about here is theory. And now when we come to domestic violence, you can see a practical aspect. And when you read issues in the light of this is the ideal. It's really, the model is the ideal, but it does not mean it's reality. So again, with the structure of a family structure, of course, in Islam, is wonderful. It's based on the Quran and the Sunnah and all the practices. But do Muslims practice this? That's again. But also, I want you to remember the goals. All the time, the objectives. So when the objectives, the maqasid, are clear, I think it helps us to evaluate and examine the issues and relationships. Which relationship has problem, which relationship is good and is going well. So this is also, and for decisions made through mutual consultation, even including children. How many of us, and I'm saying about Muslims here because that's what we're dealing with, how many of us include our children in big decisions of the family? Very rare. Or we do. You do?
I do.
Good job. Good job.
Not in big decisions, maybe.
And for me, even with the big decisions, I learned so much from my children. And now I'm preparing them to be awliya. So when my daughter is not here, so if someone will ask for her hand, I have my boys. You act because now they are trained and they know what to deal with. And it's amazing. If I give you my story, it's amazing. But as long as she's not here, so that's okay. Now with marriage. I hope I read something about love. Yes, love is there. The second one. Without love, really, what kind of relationship we have?
Yeah, that would be an arranged marriage.
Yeah, yes, exactly. That's a different issue, I guess. So with marriage here also, the Quran is very clear with this. And I got myself in trouble so many times with Muslims, especially when you go to some conservative communities. Yeah, I have to be careful to remind myself. And so many times I will stand up there and say, how many, especially if we have men involved in that crowd, so how many of you do you say, I love you to your wife every day? Once a day. Including my husband, of course. Why don't you say it to me? I say, okay, I want to train you now. So if I say it, you have to say it back. But the reality is, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he was always in love with his wife and always show her that kind of love. In our communities, part of that culture, it's like he is not a man, manness, or that you call it, there's another word, anyway, I forgot. Man enough when you spoil your wife and tell her I love you, I care about you, Well, for me, it's really, I witnessed my grandfather in this. Always, all the time, he was telling his wife, my grandmother, she was lucky, I guess, among the women, I love you. And in front of everyone, all the kids, everyone. But now, is this the new trend? And that's, again, it's something we have to really remind ourselves and remind that's from husbands and wives how to deal with this issue. Each one of the verses here, it takes a lecture by itself to be explained, but I give you this as just an example. This is in Surah Rum, and even it's amazing, like Surah number 30 is a room, the Romans. And that's what we have, the verses about relationship. Would you like to read it, or? Yes.
Among the signs in this, that he created you from dust, and then behold, you are people scattered far and wide. And among the signs is this, that he created for you mates from among yourselves, that ye may dwell in tranquility with them. And he has put love and mercy between your hearts, verily, and there are signs for those who reflect. Committed to you on the night of the fasts is this approach to your wives. They are your garments, and you are their garments.
And imagine, even just the last, thank you very much, they are your garments. Imagine, what does it mean here? Garments, it's the closest thing to your body, to your skin, is your garments. And then, of course, you have to reflect on the color, the choice, the brand of the, if you care about, not all of us, and many others, and cold and warm. And so you think about this, and this is the relationship that's supposed to be. And love and mercy. Without love and mercy, what kind of relationship we'll have? Okay, and that's also to explain tranquility. Tranquility, to provide that kind of tranquility, is a goal, as an objective of any marital relations. If there's no tranquility, and we have to all, both of us, contribute to this, it means it leads to the other side. That's when domestic violence it happens, because of ignoring and misunderstanding this. Okay, next one. Now, this is the difficult one. That's when it comes with qiwama, the roles and financial issues. But it's explained. If you look, Muslims, we used to, this, like we read one ayah, and that's as if we blame only the non-Muslims. We say, oh, they took this ayah out of context and you didn't have person. We practice the same. That's what we do. We take one ayah and we try to, we come to the Quran with what? With our own assumption, with our own agenda. And we come to approach the Quran as if we are telling the Quran, oh, Quran, just agree with me. This is my assumption, this is my agenda. Agree with me and provide me with evidence. So to strengthen my argument. This is the reality. That's what, when we take that ayah out of context and then we inject the ayah there and we found that. And that's why we need to go back and read the Quran from the beginning to the end, holistically, reflect actively on this. So this ayat is before the ayah of qiwama. Most of the time you read only the qiwama, the ayah 34, 434. So this is also 32 and 33. 4, Surah 4, 32 and 33. So what do we hear from this? This is about what? This is exactly before the ayah of qiwama. Anyone would like to read? Sure.
And in no wise Christ covered those things in which God has bestowed his gifts more freely on some of you than on others. To men is allotted what they earn, and to women what they earn. But ask God of his bounty, for God has full knowledge of all things.
And the second one?
To benefit everyone, we have appointed shares and heirs to property left by parents and relatives. To those also to whom your right hand was pledged, give their due portion. For truly God is witness to all things.
Okay. So what do we understand from this? This is before coming to the ayat Tiwama.
There's something for everybody, for men and women.
Financially.
Yeah.
We're dealing with money. So here is not only with one, like with men, but this is for men and women. So it means, going back to your question about working outside or inside maybe, or having your own business, maybe whether you're staying home or doing, but you have your own businesses or your own work is part of this, right? So have this in mind. And now connected with the next ayah, the misconception of Qawama. This one, most of people, they misunderstood the ayah or misapplied the ayah or whatever. It's all part of this because it's also, as we said, reading this. So how do we, and I brought here kind of the worst into translation, not the best, because there is a best and better translation. The translation is misunderstanding itself. So if a reader, the English reader, would read this translation, what kind of understanding of the ayah will come? I read the Arabic, and I will remind you, underline some of them, and then you read the English and see the difference. الرجال قوامون على النساء. Okay? The word قوامون, the word exact word in Arabic, is mentioned in the Quran how many times? The exact word. It's mentioned 3 times. Only 3 times. The exact word, okay? And I don't know if you have with you the Quran, so or maybe Sheikh Maryam. I want you to remember Surah 4, Surah An-Nisa, Ayah 135, if you remember, and also Surah Al-Ma'idah, Ayah 8, 8. Okay, so Qawwamun is mentioned here, the exact word, it's mentioned in Surah An-Nisa, the same surah, Ayah 135. And it's the meaning of the ayah. Do you remember the ayah? Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, all who believe in God, in Allah, kunu qawwamina bil qist. And qawwamin is from standing up, but qa'im itself, to stand up. Qawwam, we call it sigat mubalagha, so exaggeration. So it's like all the time you are standing up against injustice. And the injustice in the same surah, the ayah 135, explains even the injustice if it comes from your relatives, whether parents, relatives, anyone. So you have to stand up against injustice. Okay, that's one. The second one, it's almost the same also verse with the different wordings. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Did you find it?
The first one I found it, yes.
And the second one, Ma'idah, 5, Surah 5, and the ayah 8.
Yeah, okay, this one I found.
Okay, so could you please read it? In Germany, in German? Or
I don't have it in German.
Okay.
I mean, you had it in German. It said, oh, I have it in Zaidwara, be protectors or be safeguards of the cause of Allah, to be witnesses for justice. Is the Qawamun witnesses here or the protectors?
It's more as standing up against injustice.
Yeah, so the translations also.
Yes, yes. And it's
not bad, but it's a try.
And it's the same. It's يا أيها الذين آمنوا. It's all who believe in God, men and women. It includes both. And that to stand up against injustice. So here, if we take this, the choice of the word itself is very important. So we need to pay attention to this one. So as if it's a responsibility of men of the family to stand up all the time against any injustice, or even think to do anything that related to injustice. Then بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض. And this is again بعضهم على بعض. فضل to favor, right? Someone over another. If we read this ayah in the light of the verses that we just read in Surah 49:13, how do you read this? Do you think that God is telling us that He favors men over women? Or there's contradiction? If we read that ayah and we're saying is piety is the standard and this is the measurement that God takes, so here there's contradiction. So with tafsir, with some of the scholars understanding, they said, because here male are favored or being favored over women. Why? Listen to the logic here. بما أنفقوا من أموالهم. So as if the level is of favoring someone over the other, and here male or female, is because of what they spend from their money and support their family financially. So how do you understand this? Because this is a tricky one. If we understand this, we can, of course, explain the rest of the ayah. And that's why I explained in the beginning the holistic understanding, and then when we come to this. How do you see this? How do you understand this? How do you explain this? Is it responsibility? Or is it something else? What do you think? Yes.
I think not. It means that men are better, but it's more about responsibility, and it is more about that the men have another responsibility to women than vice versa, because women should protect their men, but maybe in other aspects than men do.
Okay, very good. Okay, so if you read the next part of the verse, here God is saying فَالصَّالِحَاتُ قَانِتَاتٌ حَافِظَاتٌ لِلْغَيْبِ بِمَا حَفِظَ اللَّهِ. The Quranic language, it says qanitat. Look at the here the translation. The translation says where is obedience? It says about therefore the righteous women are devotedly obedient. Okay, obedience. The tricky concept is about obedience, being obedient. Okay, the concept qanitat or qunut in the Quran is what? This concept and the usage, and that's what I'm saying. When you read the Quran, in that from the beginning to the end, you will familiar yourself with the concept, the meaning itself. The Quran the usage of the word, it has its own meaning. So qunut and qanitat, it's only to be devoted to God, not to people. The person who devotes himself or herself to God, we call them qanitin or qanitat. The obedience, the concept of obedience here is not to be obedient to someone else, whether husband or parents or anyone. No, here is only related to God. So do you remember piety and the standard of favoring someone above someone else? Here in this ayah, specifically the meaning of women, the righteous women, salihat, qanitat, they devote themselves to obey God. And then hafidhatun al-ghayb, but I want you to pay attention to, as I said, to the translation. There's nothing about God in the husband's absence. God here is saying, حافظات للغيب بما حفظ الله. So they guard themselves, not because my husband or my father or something, he wants me to be doing this or doing that, but I'm guarding myself or I'm obedient to God because of him. He's the one who I care about him. I watch myself and observe everything because that's my relationship with God. So back to piety, that's the standard. Here, that's what God is explaining to us. With the translation is so disturbing because there's no husband even in the Arabic version. Nothing about it. But it's only the translation and tafsir. Exegesis, that's what you will find. Do you see this? Okay. So now, God comes with the next ayah, or next version, وَلَاتِ تَخَافُونَ نُشُوزَهُنَّ فَعِظُوهُنَّ وَاهْجُرُوهُنَّ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ وَاضْرِبُوهُنَّ فَإِنْ أَطَعْنَكُمْ فَلَا تَبْغُوا عَلَيْهِنَّ سَبِيلًا إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ عَلِيًّا كَبِيرًا. Now we have a very special case. The case, that's maybe the reality, is the Quran. If we, again, we know and read the Quran holistically. So there is that case of nushuz. And I will show you the next maybe slides about nushuz, but we pay attention to this one. And also I want you to read the next one, which is in this, about the arbitration. So as I said, imagine, I want you to use your imagination. This is a special case. It's one of the extreme cases, okay? And God is providing some answers because there is a question. And the answers here, and as if imagine that someone came to you and asking about this case. What do you answer? Okay. This is with marital abuse or dispute. So nushuz is mentioned in the Quran 3 times. And nashaza, the meaning in Arabic, is to someone who is being above the other, or rafa'a, or yartafa, or lifting themselves above something else or someone else. That's an issue. Okay, so the usage is in the same surah, surah number 4, ayah 34, and also in another ayah, and the ayah is, I think, 124 or 28, in between, for men to be with nushuz, let's understand. Different, of course, circumstances. So the Quran outlines here with that extreme case, nushuz, the woman does not want to stay with her husband. And I'll give you also examples from reality. In some extreme also case, the husband loves his wife and he cares about her and he cares about his family. This is Muhammad Asad also. Muhammad Asad is translation. It comes with nushuz, he explained it in that 34 as if ill conduct. He connected with fahisha. He connected that the wife decided to have affairs or something, or she has that a tendency to do so. So, and the husband really cares about her and trying to keep peace in that family. So, as I said, it's an extreme case. And it's almost the same also with the man in 124 or 28. So here, what do? She's not in the case that she did, but there's fear or there's doubts or mistrust. So the husband maybe noticed that. So he's trying to bring his wife back to family. The steps here is the first step is the most important step, because that's what, and it doesn't mean that you try only once. The understanding of the first step is maybe it takes years, maybe 1 year, if he decides to stay with his wife, and that's the alternative. So of course, counseling is one of them. Using the extended family members, the wise people, just to deal with this, but mostly the first step is between the husband and wife, not outside the family. So that's why with counseling, maybe it works, because in this, the third person, of course, professional, so they care with, so not the extended family. The extended family will come with the step 4. And then if it doesn't work, and there's some kind of, the husband insists to have this relationship, now he must show her, or he needs to show her that really this bothers me and it doesn't work. So they separate their beds, but also again, even for the children, they have to notice this without knowledge of the children. And then the separation, of course, that's another way. With the idrubuhun, so many issues with beating lightly or doing this. The reality here, Prophet Muhammad himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him, explained this. He explained it in many situations. Even in his last sermon, he explained the meaning of udrubuhunna. That's why some of them, they said, oh, it's lightly. It wasn't about lightly. The reality is not, he did not hit or beat or even try to insult any of his wives during his time. And for Aisha, and that's the extreme case, it was an accusation. It was accusation. And for this case, maybe the fear of the husband is accusation. So if it's in this stage, you have to be careful. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not use any kind of physical insult or abuse against his wife or daughters in any situation, and specifically with Aisha's situation when she was accused of being with someone else. Okay, and that we need to take really seriously, because in Surah An-Nur, Surah number 24, God is training the entire community how to deal with these issues. And Surah An-Nur was, of course, after Surah An-Nisa, was revealed after Surah An-Nisa, as if people still did not get it. So now God himself interfered to train the entire community and use the household of the Prophet to be in this situation, very difficult situation, just to teach them not to come even near this. Not only this, it's very, it's amazing when you read the legal aspect of mula'ana. And mula'ana, when the husband finds and physically sees his wife with someone else, maybe in his bed, okay? He cannot do anything. He cannot insult her or beat her or even touch her by the law, by the Quranic law. But the reality is, if it's this extreme and he decides to go to the court, and then at that time they use mula'ana, and mula'ana is to dissolve the marital contract. That's it. And people, we are dealing with people, they used to kill the daughters or women by not finding her in his bed or some, just accusation. And that's why Aisha's story was in Surah An-Nur. Do you see this? But we don't hear about it because we are Muslims. Most of the time they went back to that Jahiliyyah time instead of the Quranic legal aspects and understanding of this. So the physical abuse is really not here. We are dealing with issues that it's beyond this. Oof. Okay, maybe I need from you to just, and this is to also to go through what I just explained. Okay, so this is, we also explained before, as we said. Do you have any questions so far? Any new ideas, any suggestions, any challenges? I welcome it. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to know how to transfer this theory to practice, into the practice, because as Catherine told you, the main issue is, and as you said also,
yes,
the main issue is that it's so hard that we live after this model, and with the Quran. So,
yeah.
I mean, even if we know it, sometimes we don't know it really, but even if we know it, the practice is really something else. So
That's right. That's
so how
right.
do you do it? I would like to know, what do you do?
Yeah. Yeah. With this, I would like just to show you the reality.
Yes.
So see the survey. This is a different survey, so I want just to show you that the practical aspect is there still. It's an ideal, but really we are going through this, and now I will end in the practical aspects of this, what we are doing so far on dealing with this issue. Yes?
What exactly did the Prophet say in the last sermon about the ayah that addresses love?
And there is no, you cannot touch your wife.
And he said that outright?
Yes, yes. Okay, so I want you to see this, because sometimes we found that through experience also, the role of imams is very, very critical, because so many times the wives will go complain about their husbands, or the daughters complain about their fathers, or whatever. They go to the imam, the first one, to ask, and they ask him about their situation. He said, you have to be patient, because this is your family, and you're the one who should take care of them. So you have to be patient. So many cases, I'm not saying maybe, it's like at least I can count 10 cases, extreme cases. I'm not saying that's the norm, but extreme cases, 10 wives were slaughtered after consulting with the imams and the community, and they told them that our husbands, and I took my daughter once to New York, and after that I went before, and I had a training about domestic violence in that specific community in New York, and we said you have to be careful, and for the imams and also for the community. It seems like they took it just in a simple way. Oh, okay, that's training, so what? It's similar also, maybe presentation. Just after 2 months, I think, we heard the story that this man, and that woman were among the crowd, and she didn't come to me, but she went, it seems like, to everyone else, and everyone was telling her, he's a good man, and he was one of the leaders of the community. okay? Very famous, young man, but he had anger issues, he had mental health issues, and he divorced 2 women before her, and she was the 3rd person. It seems like the other were saved. That lady, she was very young, very active, smart. He went to her, he hired someone to kill her. It was very famous story at that time. And no one knew about it. Of course, with the problem is also we are Muslims in between 2 societies, that everyone is abusing Muslims themselves because they say, see, that's Islam. So we need to defend ourselves and our religion and saying this is not Islam, it's domestic violence. So if it's the same exact case with white or whoever, white man, American man, happened to him, they will call it domestic violence. But for the Muslims, for Islam, it becomes Islam's issue, not domestic violence. But we took care of this. But again, because of this community, they invited us again and said, please, come on. We said it before, but you didn't stand up for with the women. You have to be careful when any of the women or children, they come to you and complain about these kind of behaviors, you have to take a stand. And you have to stop this man. And you have to announce within the community, because this man, he divorced 2 other women, and no one knows about this. And this lady, if the community did their job, will not marry again. And that's what the Quran also teaches us in Surah At-Tawbah. For the 3 men, for example, when you have a collective, boycott. So the community boycott that man and make him understand that we don't support what you're doing. So no of our girls will be married to someone like them. Do you see this? So we are advocating also for this type, and now at least we have some imams are working with this. Emotional abuse. It's just with the survey, most of people, even in the court, in American court, emotional abuse has not been taken seriously. Although now with domestic violence, because we are working with the mainstream social works and workers and others, so at least in the Congress, finally, they acknowledge that emotional and verbal abuse is abuse and is part of domestic violence. So again, in the Quran is very clear, in Surah Al-Hujurat, that verbal and emotional abuse is haram, is a crime, is prohibited. But people, they practiced all the time. And that's what we're working on it. And we're trying to build that kind of coalition is really to stop this. Because when she goes to the court, if you don't have marks on your body and you're just saying and claiming that he abuses you, it doesn't work, even with the American courts. So that's another issue. Of course, that's also we need to take it in consideration because it helps us to work on it and understand mental health is a serious issue. So if you have in the families, you have some of the men and women, children now, we have also so many of them, they committed that kind of violent actions and behaviors against each other. So wars, modern wars, Afghanistan, Iraq, and everywhere people are coming from this. We have political issues. So many things are involved and contribute to domestic violence. You have poverty now. You have the employment issues that so many of them are really suffering from this. And it's also shelters That's also, it comes for some people who they will deal with this. But anxiety, depression, and many other issues that really contribute to this. So we have to understand, and that's what the social workers and counselors and imams, they must understand also the reasons. Why do we have these issues? I have to finish, I know.
Just
Oh, we need to discuss. Oh, okay.
If
Sure,
we
sure.
should do that, or
Yes, please, yes. Culture also, that's we have to pay attention to. So we have Somalis, immigrants, they have their own systems. Oh, so you have to deal with them differently than the Sudanese. The Sudanese had different than the Arabs and the others. So these are the issues. And we have to provide also the Quranic guidance here. For the victims, the problem here is when, as I said, an example, the victims, when they go to the community or the imams, that's the mechanism they use, be patient. But the Quran provides that for us. It's not about, it's patience, it means active, being active, not passive. Their understanding of being patient is passive, that you be quiet and don't do anything. No, being patient, it means you have to find counseling, you have to deal with your issues. If the husband is not responding very well, or maybe the wives or the children, how do you deal with this? You need to use all kinds of issues to deal with and being active in this. Also, we are teaching in our training sessions the meaning of repentance based on the Quranic also understanding. But we found that, and this is also, it's amazing. We presented this model with the social workers, the American mainstream social workers. And it's amazing because they took this as a model also for them. And it works in a good way because you are combining. And they were, in fact, now even and before, they were saying that please feel free to contribute because you have a very unique model we can use. And it's not, so it's up to Muslims to contribute to this and being involved and have that kind of collective understanding and being in the mainstream, with the mainstreams. Working with also interfaith communities, it helped a lot because you are hearing different examples and your contribution will be very valuable because so many times it's not there, they don't have it. Divorce, misunderstanding divorce in the Muslim community, and I would like of the students, if they would like to ask any questions, maybe tomorrow, inshallah, about divorce, about marriage, I'm willing to answer all your questions. So I will just leave this for tomorrow. Also, this is about divorce. We have so many issues, and what the Quran says about divorce. This is all about divorce. The rise of the rate of divorce in our families. Muslim families, now it's almost 50%. Here at 31% is an old, this is 10 years ago. Now we have 50%. And in some areas, 60%. So either we are almost the same as the mainstream Americans. Yeah.
Just about the numbers. What kind of marriages are contributing to these numbers, or what kind of divorces? Also the marriages that are only done in the masajid.
Some of them.
Yes. And the divorces that are only taking place in the
court
masajid?
system. No, it's both.
Okay,
in
so
both.
the legal,
Yes.
the civil marriages.
Yes, yes.
Only the civil
Yes.
marriages are counted into that.
Part of it, and that's what the other surveys we're doing. The second one specifically,
Yeah.
it's about the court.
Okay.
So the divorce really now is very high. The first one, because it's early, it was mixed between the masajid, that without the civil certificate, and also the court system. So that's why.
Because I was just
no, this is
thinking
a
that
good
maybe
question.
The unofficial marriages.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it's underreported. It's
Yeah.
the same,
Okay.
underreported, because they don't have the actual numbers.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but with the court, it's the same also. And there are so many, and it's amazing. The financial issues is one of the first reasons or causes for divorce. It's the first. The second one is the roles, gender roles, and different understanding. It's another issue, and that's why it's very important to understand this, and it's part of our training sessions to do this. The third, which is also very interesting, the in-laws. The in-laws, because the mothers or parents or something, they interfere all the time, and then they ended, of course, with divorce. And the fourth one is, I think, in compatibility. So later they will find, oh, she's not compatible, he's not, no, he's not the one I was looking for, with all options or issues and problems. Anyway, so, and here, of course, there are some external and internal also issues and the structure. I just mentioned a few of what it's really part. Domestic violence is very important part of the divorce, using this. Okay, and so here is just some suggestions, but I want you also to share with this. We use the imams. Here is not maybe mentioned, but the last one is really, that's what we are trying to build on. The imams, like 15 years ago, we used to have, subhanAllah, it's amazing. We started these trainings, and this is in the 90s, right? In the beginning, but 2000, that's when Peaceful Families Project, and then Faith, which is the Islamic Social Service that was established and founded to support the masjid, and Faith is specifically dealing with the domestic violence issue, to find for the ladies, in this case, shelters, housing, to help them with the legal issues, taking them to the court, being with them, represent them. Some of them, they don't even speak the language. So they have to, someone should come with them. So you have to, and dealing with Karama also, like Muslim women lawyers, they provide the legal advices. And sometimes even they provide for them lawyers to go with them to the court. So all these aspects with the women organizations, but also working, and that's, I think, what we need to work on, to have that kind of support system from within organizations, working with the masajid. The problem is with the imams, so many of the imams, we just found out that 40% of them, they are really now working on this, don't support the efforts of the different organizations or different women. So in this case, you lose it. You can't work with them. But at least 40% now, since 2006, we have almost 40% of the imams now, because the Peaceful Families Projects, for example, as an organization, they only provide education, and education for the community and for the imams. So it works very well, but still we need more, like almost 30 presentations and workshops a year. It's been given to imams and community. I remember in 2005, 5, I think. We were invited to Tampa in Florida. They said, you just come. We will have 100 maybe people, imams, 50, this is it. So we went and we were so excited. We were giving them this, Ya Rabbi, I still remember. We entered that room, it was full of chairs, and we ended up with only 20 persons. Most of them were women. And most of the women were either social workers or someone who's involved in domestic violence issues. And imams were not there, not supporting, they didn't come, they didn't show up. And so we are now, at least, alhamdulillah, they're asking for this. And there's a new trend also. Some of the imams, they are having their counseling degree, their degree, master degree in counseling. And some of them are working also on psychology to understand this. So, and immigrants, with the immigrants now, they have to have someone American who's born in America, and they know the reality, so they have to work with them. So that's alhamdulillah. Now we are still at least working, but this is some of the, I think, successful practices. Premarital counseling is also very successful in some areas, not all the areas, because not everyone goes to premarital. They say, what should we do with this? But the reality is, in Adam Center, for example, or other centers, now we found out this is, they even now, the imams in our center, Adam centers, they have it as a requirement. So before you go to the court, you have to finish, they have forms with the pre-counseling, premarital counseling. So you have to fill out the forms and you take it to the court. So there is some kind of collaborative work between the court and the imams. So this is a very also good practices. You see, yes.
Can I ask something?
Sure.
Maybe that's more to elaborate
Sure.
For tomorrow. I'm interested in this comprehensive marriage contract. Do you have? Can I imagine that you have a form, a standard form or something? And what would be the the different paragraphs of this marriage contract? And do people actually use it? It would be a very great idea, because there are so many factors relevant for that.
We wrote about this in our article, I told you, inshallah, so you can have it. But also I work with Mahal Khatib, Sharifa's daughter, and she's also a board member, I think she was the founder, on Peaceful Family Project. So she has its own line, you can see also what she did. And about the contract, because marriage contract, we found it in our history. It was so many, we found so many women, they used to have and take advantage, because Ahmed bin Hanbal and his madhab, his school of thought, encouraged men and women to write their own contract. And it was part of practice in Baghdad and other areas at that time. But it was lost and in the middle of so many other things. So we tried to retrieve that good practices with the contract, because it is part of Islamic tradition. So the contract itself, the old one, we found two, I think, examples. It's just examples, but we don't have a firm, standard or something. But it's like agreement, mutual agreement between the husband and wife before they get married. They have to agree on certain things. For example, study. The woman or the wife, she said, I have to finish my studies. Do you agree? If the man agrees, that's it. It's a contract. So and we work with lawyers, by the way. So the contract is not only, so it must be also legally accepted, and you have to have, you register it in the court to make sure that Both sides, of course, apply it. In-laws, the issue of in-laws. Maybe the wife will decide, or she wants not to live with her in-laws. So you have to agree, and that mutual agreement, it comes from both sides. So if he doesn't agree, she has the right to say, I'm sorry, it doesn't work with you. It travels, for example. Some of women, their work requires travels. They have to have that kind of mutual agreement among themselves. Do you agree or not? Some men don't agree. So in this case, to prevent domestic violence later and say, no, you cannot work, or you cannot do this, or you cannot study, you cannot travel. So from the beginning, you have to have this. What it helps to have the contract, you need maybe the imam sometimes to guide them, but sometimes you don't. You need just the Islamic knowledge to find out this is the right one. The conditions itself, like someone, we have a contract between interfaith. The husband is Muslim, the wife is not Muslim. You need to have that agreement. I want my children to be, for example, practicing Islam. So I want to send them to Muslim schools or Sunday school or this school. And the wife would say something else. I want them to be in relation with my family, for example, or take them to church or something. So in this, we need to pay attention what contradict the Islamic teachings, what's not. And so the marriage contract is really very important. And also in-laws, we're working on this issue to educate the mothers, parents, how to be a source of support instead of a source of difficulties and dispute.
So this is a part of the project.
Not only peaceful family, as I said, it's with faith, with karama, with peaceful, but peaceful families, the main thing what they're doing is training people.
And
So
also the in-laws, or?
about in-laws, it's we all are working on this.
Okay.
It's teaching the community, being an example. I try to show them, I'm a mother-in-law here, I have 3 sons, I'm trying to be the best mother-in-law and all kinds of things. And I have to bring my daughter-in-law also to assure them that. So this is also part of, finally, of course, as we said, the ultimate goal is for all of us, it's what? Enjoy. Amina, would you like to read the final? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem.
And those who pray, our Lord, grant unto us wives and offspring who will be the comfort of our eyes and give us the grace to lead the righteous. Those are the ones who will be rewarded with the highest place in heaven because of their patience, constancy. Therein shall they be met with salutations and peace.
Okay, and I'll give you the last one.
Should I continue?
Yeah, please.
Those who join together those things which God hath commanded to be joined, hold their Lord in awe and fear the terrible reckoning. Those who patiently persevere, seeking the countenance of their Lord, establish regular prayers spent out of the gifts we have bestowed for their sustenance, secretly and openly, and turn off evil with good. For such there is the final attainment of the eternal home. Gardens of perpetual bliss they shall enter there, as well as the righteous among their fathers, their spouses, and their offspring. And angels shall enter unto them for every gate with the salutation. Peace unto you, for that ye persevered in patience. Now how excellent is the final home.
Thank you very much.